Here it comes. Can you feel it? 2025 is coming in hot. What fun we have ahead, looking toward a new year, the new changes to come, but also looking back and reflecting on the past. It's a tradition we've practiced many times, and here, as in most nonprofit groups, I just have to ask, how's everyone doing on their end-of-year reports? Can you believe it's that time of year again? And for you national chairs and national vice chairs, as you've heard, there are some new things you need to do this year, so oh boy. Remember, you can look on our members' website for the information. Also, see links in the emails you've received. So what is your New Year's Eve tradition? Do you have a party? Do you go to one? Do you stay in and do something fun? Well, many of us do watch that big crystal-covered ball drop in Times Square in New York, but what's up with that? Why is a ball dropping something we even do? Well, we just had to get to the bottom of this American tradition that, of course, we found out did not originate in America, and we'll tell that story today. And you know we love to talk about what our wonderful chapters and state societies are doing in the DAR, so to that aim today, we'll tell you about a very meaningful gift given by the Alabama Society. Wow. And as I'll bet you've all been doing, we've been looking back here in 2024, and for us here in this committee, looking at the different segments and episodes we've had, we want to review and replay some meaningful segments we've had here on the podcast. And one of the most meaningful, we thought, was a segment our President General filmed with us while we were in D.C. together. So we wanted to play that short clip with you today, and then we'll talk about the Alabama Society DAR, and then we'll end the episode and this year with a grand segment on that sparkling New Year's Eve tradition we all know and enjoy. Well, you know how much we encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe to this podcast, and thank you for that. If you've enjoyed these podcasts at all, maybe learned a little nugget or a tidbit at all from them, would you give this podcast a thumbs up or rate it 5 stars, whatever's the case on the platform you're using? That'd be a wonderful end of the year gift to us, that's for sure. Well, as always, and most especially for the last time this year, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Can you imagine the efforts required in building our national headquarters? Our magazine, The Atlantic Monthly at the time, contains wonderful information about the early days of Memorial Continental Hall. President General Cornelia Cole Fairbanks said in 1905, quote, "We will appeal to the patriotism and loyalty of our daughters throughout the country to aid in founding here a Temple of Liberty in honor of those brave and noble men who purchased for us, at the cost of their lives, the priceless heritage of freedom that we now enjoy. We are building not only for those who went before us, not only for those who are working now for this splendid object, but for those who shall come in the grand hereafter, when our country is still carrying out the lofty ideals of our society." End quote. The Continental Hall Committee reported in 1907 that, quote, "The purpose of Memorial Hall, the National Revolutionary Monument at Washington, is to commemorate the rank and file of the war for independence, the sailor, the soldier who carried the musket in the ranks, and that great reserve force, the women of the American Revolution. It has become our sublime privilege to erect a fitting memorial, a stately palace beautiful, which symbolizes not only for this, but for all coming generations the eternal principles of patriotism which animated these soldiers of the line, these women of the spinning wheel." End quote. Please join me as we explore our crown jewel, Memorial Continental Hall. I'd love to share some history with you. One of my favorite items in the DAR library, which is the old auditorium in Memorial Continental Hall, is this beautiful clock that's on the cast iron railing. It was given by the Baltimore chapter to the National Society and made by J.E. Caldwell, the official jeweler of the DAR. The Maryland crest is at the top and the DAR insignia is at the bottom, and it has brought joy to us for over 100 years. And it's the inspiration for the insignia for the balcony volunteers. And so that makes everyone want to be a member of the balcony volunteer committee. So I hope you love it as much as I do. So we're in the library still, which was the old auditorium from Memorial Continental Hall, our first auditorium, which had a seating capacity for about 2,000 people. If you look here, it was lit by these beautiful chandeliers, these brass chandeliers. We know that a chapter from Kansas and a chapter from New York each paid for 2 of those. And Georgia State Society recently paid to have them refurbished. And I wonder if you're wondering what I didn't know until recently is how do they change the light bulbs on the chandeliers? Well, they're on cable system and they lower them down, change the light bulbs, and then they raise them back up to whatever height they want. And of course, they're suspended from the beautiful ceiling where the ley lights are. We're all familiar with the ley lights above the library, which was a project from Mary Wright's administration.
"28 chapters of the Alabama Society Daughters of the American Revolution dedicated 6 benches in August of this year at American Village in Montevallo, Alabama." Well, before we go on to tell you about this generous and meaningful gift from the Alabama State Society, it's fitting to understand what the American Village is there in Alabama. The American Village serves the nation as an educational institution whose mission is to strengthen and renew the foundations of American liberty and constitutional self-government by engaging and inspiring citizens and leaders with a special emphasis on programs for young people. Their main focuses are 1. To teach youth the vital lessons of liberty, 2. To remember the price of liberty and honor those who have paid it, and then 3, promote public regard for the Constitution and America's Charters of Freedom, and lastly, to engage citizens and leaders in the stewardship of liberty and to foster renewal of the American spirit of E pluribus unum, from many, one. That sounds like the kind of place we as DAR members really want to support. We'll add a link in the show notes to this incredible place. So, on to some details about the dedication of these benches last summer. In attendance there at this grand event was our President General of the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution, Pamela Edwards Rouse Wright, and American Village Citizenship Trust President and CEO, Colonel Alan Miller. The Alabama Society DAR State Regent Melinda Williams presided at the ceremony, and Catherine Walker West, National Chair of the America 250 Committee, gave the keynote address. A commissioner from the prestigious United States Semi-Quincentennial Commission, established by the U.S. Congress in 2016, was in attendance, American Village Chief Education and Programs Officer Val Crofts. The Alabama Sons of the American Revolution Color Guard presented the flag of the United States of America, the flag of the state of Alabama, and DAR banners for the patriotic exercises. ASDAR State Regent Melinda Williams said, and I quote, "The Alabama Society is proud of the 28 DAR chapters across Alabama who came together to purchase and dedicate these benches through the Stars and Stripes Forever Celebration Grants program. It's an honor to commemorate the men and women who helped found this nation with American Village Citizenship Trust's mission to share with young people America's journey to independence through experience-based American history, civics, and government academic programs. It is fitting that the 6 benches reside here. It is the hope of the Alabama State Society Daughters of the American Revolution that future generations visiting American Village will continue to be reminded of those who sacrificed for us all." End quote. Funds from the NSDAR President General's Project have allowed DAR chapters to inform their communities about the founding of our great nation and the patriots that achieved American independence through the $500 Stars and Stripes Forever celebration grants. And thank you so much to State Regent Melinda Williams for sending this information to us. We love to share what our chapters and state societies are doing in the DAR today. What else could you possibly be doing near midnight on New Year's Eve? What else does anyone do but watch the ball drop? Whether you're on the ground in person with roughly 1 million of your closest friends in Times Square, or watching virtually with approximately 100 million people worldwide, there really is nothing else comparable to bring in the new year. Well, how did this whole thing come about? Well, over the past roughly 190 years, the world has calibrated its clocks to an 1833 time ball perched atop 350-year-old Flamsteed House, the original royal observatory commissioned by King Charles II in Greenwich, England. That ball marks Greenwich Mean Time, of course, but here in the US, well, we've always done things our own way. And if you ask any random off-the-street American about a time ball, chances are they'll rank the one in Times Square each New Year's Eve as far more important than its iconic predecessor flanking the Thames. But what's really the backstory to that glittering, sparkling, crystalline sphere drawing 1 million plus merrymakers to New York each New Year's Eve? Well, my friends, it's a little science and, much like the holiday itself, more than a little magic. New York's revelry in the Big Apple has a history of over 120 years, originating with Times publisher Adolph Ochs, who originally drew turn-of-the-New Year crowds to Times Square with pyrotechnics and fireworks. Well, city officials shut down the explosives after a few short years, and Ochs tapped Ukrainian immigrant and metalworker Jacob Starr of Strauss Signs and later Artcraft Strauss to fabricate a replacement option. Ochs and Times chief electrician Walter Palmer have both been credited with the concept of incorporating a time ball to mark the turn of the new year, and 7 subsequent iterations later resulted in the ball we'll see this year. The idea of a time ball wasn't new. In the nautical world, ship chronometers were set by metal balls raised and lowered in harbors and observatories in order to synchronize seagoing instruments. However, a hand-lowered time ball that descends in darkness, illuminated the night, and then transformed into the numbers coinciding with timing of the new year would be seen as truly magical. When all this began, electricity was still relatively new. Portions of Manhattan were electrified in the 1880s, but up through the 1920s, roughly half of American homes were still lit by candles or gas lights. Well, 1907 marked that first ball drop with a sphere weighing 700 pounds and 100 lights, and in 1908, the entire Times Square neighborhood joined the festivities, including area restaurant servers who wore battery-operated top hats featuring a lit New Year's date. In 1995, the traditional ball became jazzed up with strobe lights, rhinestones, and computerized controls. Fast forward to 2024, and this year's ball represents a collaboration between Waterford Crystal and Philips Lighting. Spanning 12 feet in diameter and featuring over 32,000 LED lights, it weighs a whopping 11,875 pounds. This glittering sphere is adorned with almost 3,000 crystal triangles, which the public was invited to change out on December 19th in Broadway Plaza between 46th and 47th Streets. These pieces were swapped out by members of the general public, who were then allowed to keep the previous shards as souvenirs. What a fabulous way to link today's community with a timeless American tradition. New Year's is special for each of us, representing hope, optimism, inspiration, and so much more. And here at the DAR Today podcast, we wish you a dazzling, sparkling 2025. We leave you today with this quote by Martin Luther King Jr. when talking about moving forward, which I think is really appropriate as we develop our plans for the new year, what we'll do to reach our goals. And that quote is, "You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step." Well, thanks for listening, and be well, dear friends. Let's celebrate the Stars and Stripes forever. And remember, with all of your ancestors behind you, you are the result of the love of thousands. This podcast was written and produced by our incredible team of writers and editors, and we are, as always, so grateful for President General Pamela Edwards Rouse Wright and Historian General Suzanne Heskey for their constant guidance, to Chris Hurst-Loeffler and to Melinda Williams for being so generous with their time. The National Society Daughters of the American Revolution is a non-profit, non-political volunteer women's service organization dedicated to preserving our American history, securing our nation's future through better education, and promoting American patriotism. Members are all lineal descendants of those who supported the cause of independence in the Revolutionary War. For more information, please visit dar.org. This is the DAR Today podcast.